enseña con sabor. Quesos colombianos y venezolanos, todo hecho en tu casa, con sabor zuliano y calor humano. Los quesos en casa tienen vitaminas, rápidos de hacer, en cualquier cocina. Tan fácil como pelar mandarinas. Quesitos en casa, fáciles de hacer son. El doctor Quesero te enseña con sabor. Quesitos en casa, fáciles de hacer son. El doctor Quesero te enseña con sabor. Hago queso hermano, también queso pera, costeño matera, paipa palmisulia y hasta doble crema. Quesitos en casa, fáciles de hacer son. El doctor Quesero te enseña con sabor. Quesitos en casa, fáciles de hacer son. El doctor Quesero te enseña con sabor.
Hi everyone, welcome once again to my YouTube channel, Dr. Quesero TV, and to my show, Ask the Cheese Doctor. This is the English version of my program in Spanish that I have 1 hour ago. Today I'm a little bit stressed because I have problem with my audio in the last program. I don't know if I'm having problem with the audio here. I have to delete the Instagram transmission because it's taking too many resources from my computer, and I'm making cheese today now. So I have my cheese in the mold and the press. I'm pressing it, and I still have cheese on the vat. So I'm a bit stressed today. So don't worry, it's part of the life. If we don't have stress in life, it wouldn't be so. It would be very boring. So today I'm going to finish the last part of the how to make a safe cheese. So I'm going to make the presentation, and tomorrow, next week, we're going to speak about. Well, it's a surprise because I first don't remember very well, but I recommend how to get that your cheese can stretch in a good way. I recommend this is the topic that we're going to speak next week. And well, I didn't prepare much about what I have planned for the future because I'm very stressed with the cheese making process. So anyway, let's start with the presentation. As I said, today we're going to finish the part of how to prepare a safe cheese. But I'm going to review a little bit what we saw in the last 2 weeks, so you can have like a refreshment of what you should do and what to consider when you are making cheese. Okay. Let me share the screen. If I have audio, I will share it with you. I recommend my computer that is, and the phone is taking too many resources from stream. You are taking too many resources from my computer. I already prepared it, but anyway, this is what it is, and it all must go on. So okay, so let's go and carry on with the presentation. Okay, how to say? I'm going to make a small review. You can update. But if you want to see in detail the first four steps of the system, go to my last 2 weeks or to my last 2 videos of after the cheese doctor, and you will be able to to watch them in details. Okay. As I said, to make a good cheese, we need to lab test because this is the best way. But well, we use the system, which is the hazard analysis critical control point. Okay. When we this point, I mean this system, what it does is it checks the control points of the manufacturing process and classify them in critical and non critical. If we have critical points, we have to mitigate them, and that's the idea. If we identify the processes when we have critical points, mitigate it to get a safe product. And we have these 7 aspects that we have to comply. The first one is identification of possible risk associated with production. Okay, and this is the first risk, and which includes the question of raw materials, manufacturing process, and distribution. This is well explained in the last 2 programs. Okay, and I recommend the 27 Ask the Cheese Doctor number 27. So go for it, and I'm not gonna go in detail with it because it's already explained in the video. The second part of the system is to determine the precise point where in the process where there's a risk. So we have to identify in our process, if we are making cheese, which involves cheese resection, pasteurization, heating, inoculating, maturing, curdled milk, scalding, mold, etc., 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 we have to identify in each process if we have a risk. If the risk is critical, we have to minimize it or isolate it. If the process is if the risk is not critical, we call it control point. If it is critical, we call it critical control point. Okay. For example, pasteurization is a critical control point because if we don't pasteurize the milk, for sure we're going to have a bad product with and cross-contaminated with E. coli. We can have also aphthous, brucellosis, etc., etc. Okay, as I said, is well explained in the as the Cheese Doctor number 27 or 28. I don't remember. But anyway, go to my last two programs and you will be able to find it. Okay, this is the third one. Tolerance bandwidth to mitigate the product. As said, for example, in pasteurization, we have to heat the milk at a certain range. We can heat from 63 to half an hour to 69 for 1 minute. You choose it. And the pH, you have to choose a bandwidth. It doesn't mean that you have to weigh off or drain the whey at pH 6.5 exactly. You can do it at 6.15. It will depend. I mean, you can have a small band to play with. The same with the temperature. If the curd or the milk reaches the temperature as your recipe 36, but you reach 35.6 instead of 36, doesn't matter. I mean, half a degree is not an issue. Of course, if you have 3 or 4 degrees, this is an issue. But you can. That's why you need to work in. You can work with bandwidth. Okay. Carry on. Number 4, establish a monitoring system for scheduled observation or lab test to verify that your system is working. What we do in cheese making, we make this type of test: Listeria, Streptococcus aureus, Salmonella, and aerobic plague count. Let me go back to the. I'm gonna go back to. I'm having good feedback with the audio. If you are listening and you are having good feedback, and you can, and the audio as well is good, I would appreciate if you give me your feedback and I can know, because I'm not able to know if I have good audio. I reckon the platform is showing me the audio, but once I get rid of it, I just go to another place. The platform doesn't tell me, but if you can give me feedback, I'll get it. Anyway, carry on. And let's go with the presentation. And let's carry on again. Where were we? Wait. Okay, number 4, right? So we have to do swab test as well. Swab test is when it's like you get like a Q-tip and rub the surface to see if we have this type of bacteria. Okay, and the test must be representative. Okay, if the system works, peace of mind. But if it doesn't work, this is when the problem comes. But I will tell you what to do. Now, the next point that you need to, or the next item that you need to consider when you are making is, okay, our cheese is good. Okay, we have to carry on with the system. But what happens if the cheese is not good? If we have Listeria, we have Streptococcus aureus or Salmonella, or our aerobic plague count is too high, and our swab test wasn't satisfactory. So we have to do something. We have to establish corrective action. We have to have in place protocols to establish corrective actions procedures in case the monitoring process of our cheese making process, okay, is not controlled. Okay, for example, if we are pasteurizing the milk ourselves, we have to heat it at 63, to put example, at 63.9 for 1 minute. Okay, we do the process, but how do we guarantee that our milk is really pasteurized? So we did the process, we comply with the process, but we have to measure. We have to measure the milk. We have to measure with a procedure that our milk is indeed pasteurized correctly. So what we use a test called Phosphatase Test. This is an enzyme that is into the milk, and it get denatured when the milk reaches certain temperatures. And when the milk is heated at the temperature of pasteurization, this enzyme disappears. So if we have phosphatase in our milk, it means that our milk wasn't pasteurized correctly, and we have to repasteurize it again. Okay, of course we have to, but we do this randomly. It's not that we're gonna do it every time that we make cheese. No, we do it randomly. To put an example, once a month, and to test our process. If we don't have presence, we carry on with the pasteurization process. If for a reason we get a positive test that we have phosphatase in our milk, it means that our pasteurization process is not working correctly, and we have to review our pasteurizer. We have to review the protocols. Maybe the milk is getting cross-contaminated because people is not sanitizing their hands correctly, or they're not using proper gear, or the walls of your kitchen, if you're doing it at home, is not they're not clean. So we have to identify the problem and then mitigate it. Okay. Also, the lab test that we do, if we have presence of Listeria, Streptococcus aureus, Salmonella, or, as mentioned before, we have to review our protocol. And therefore, if we haven't, if we have Listeria, for example, Listeria is a bacteria that is caused because lack of hygiene in our kitchen or in our cheese plant. If we have Streptococcus aureus, it's because our ventilation is not good, or maybe we have Salmonella because we have flies in the kitchen or in our plant, so we have to get rid of these flies or bugs or whatever. Okay. If we have aerobic plate count, we have to. This is lack of sanitizing. We have to clean our kitchen, clean the walls, the ceiling, the floor, all the gear. We have to improve this type of problems occurs when our sanitizing protocols are not correctly in place. Okay, and another way to check that the system is working is by doing swab tests. For example, for the aerobic plate count and Streptococcus aureus, they are floating on the air, and also spores of mold, native yeast from the milk, etc. Especially if we are using raw milk, this swab test can identify the presence of this type of bacteria or molds, and we have to do it at least once a month. This swab test, we do it on the floor, on the bench that we are using, tables or racks. We can do it also in the mold, in the plastic molds or any gear. I mean, it's your criteria what you choose to do this test. In my case, what I do is I always do it in the top of my kitchen, and I do it on the floor as well, because it's very important that you clean the floor needs to be clean and sanitized before you make cheese. Okay, what I do is each time I make cheese, I sanitize the whole kitchen, my whole kitchen, walls, cabinets, all my gear, the floor. I use chlorine solution at 300 parts per million, which is a little bit more concentrated. Sometimes a little bit more, 400 up to 500. And we have to use gloves because this concentration of chlorine is dangerous because the skin can absorb it, so it might be dangerous for your health. So we have to be careful, okay? But these are the established, this corrective action that you have to put in place when you are making the cheese. Okay. The other problem is you have to verify that the let me go to this. Okay, you have to the other item, and the one before the last one is to establish alternate verification procedures. If your pasteurization process is telling you that you have phosphatase in your milk, or in your milk, maybe you can repeat the test again by using another reactive with another brand, so both brands can tell you if indeed you have phosphatase in your milk, and therefore your pasteurization wasn't done correctly. So you have to back up that is supporting what the first test did. Mostly what it is in cheese making is to repeat the test again, and also the experience. If you see that that the process happens, for example, if you have listeria in your milk or in your cheese, you have listeria, you have to repeat the process, you repeat the lab test, take the sample, repeat it, how much amount you can take out to send it to the lab. Well, as I said, it goes according to your experience to making cheese, and it will depend on the production that you make. If you make 1,000 kilos, maybe you can have 5 or 6 kilos. But if you make 1 kilo or 2 kilos, you can have 10% of that. Okay, 300 grams, 400 grams. These are your criteria based on experience. And the last point to consider when we are making of this hazard analysis critical control point is to establish detailed documentation systems, or establish a system that gives you a detailed documentation of all the procedures that you do, or what you make when you that you do when you make cheese. It includes people as well, okay? And which means that all the responsibilities you have to make responsible any person that is involved within the process. To put an example, we have to have registers of pH. We have to have registers of lactic cultures that we use, the brand, the amount that we put in the cheese making process. For example, I'm making cheese now. I'm making 30 liters of milk because I have 2 or 3. I want cheese for myself, and I have 2 or 3 friends that they ask me, "Did you have cheese?" Okay, I will make, because I didn't have the time. But anyway, that's another problem. So I make cheese, and I use 0.53 grams or half a gram of lactic culture. I wrote it down. I receive the milk. This time I receive it a little bit hot, but I have to register. I receive it at 9.1 degrees because we have summer now in New Zealand. Normally, usually the milk comes at 3 degrees, but because it's summer and it's hot, the milk is coming a little bit hot. So I have to register all this. Why do we do this? Because the idea is when we are making cheese, we have to track the product. If something happened, we can track back the process and find out where was the problem. If for any reason, one of our suppliers, to put an example, if my salt supplier tells me that the milk that the salt that I bought, or the batch that I bought, was contaminated with arsenic, to put an example, it has traces of arsenic, I have to pick up the product that I sold to my clients or to my friends or to my family, pick up the cheese and throw away. Or if we are doing this as a business, I have to speak with my client, hey, the batch number, whatever, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 of the date, whatever, is contaminated. It has traces of arsenic. So we have to pick them up. Don't eat it, dump it. And then we have to refund the money. And the supplier as well will have the supplier of the salt will also have to refund the money of the salt. I mean, it's a chain. But if we don't have a tracking of all the process, including the people that we sold or we gave them the cheese, we won't be able to trace it back. So it's very important to have a detailed documentation system, as detailed as possible, so we can find out or establish or control each process, each part of the process. Okay. So with this last point, and we finish the system of the hazard analysis of critical control point, which tells us how to make a safe cheese. This analysis applies not only for cheese, it also applies if we are cooking, making food, or we are selling, for example, eggs, or we are if we are selling meat, which has a lot of bacteria involved. Also, the eggs, they have bacteria involved. They may have salmonella. If you eat them raw, especially if it is a restaurant. Okay, if you're a supplier, the problem is not so severe. But if you are, if we are cooking with eggs or something like that, we might have this problem. So we have to check temperatures and stuff. The same with cheese making. We have to follow a protocol. Our cheese should be within the bandwidth of a pH 1 or 2, to put an example. The salt content should be X percentage. It's not that I'm putting salt just by taste. If we are doing this as a business, we have to be really accurate with the amounts and to offer a standard product. If we are making cheese at home, okay, that's not so important, but it's very important that you follow the at least the sanitizing protocol, because your family can get sick. Okay, and as a good practice, also write down everything, because if something is wrong and you have one of your ingredients is have a recall, and you receive a call from the supermarket, look, your chlorine solution is contaminated with, I don't know, radioactive material, whatever. So we have to take it. I mean, we have to take action, and because our family will suffer. Okay. Now, as I said, I'm a little bit in a hurry because we have to carry on making my cheese. But let's and screen, and okay, here we are. I have questions here from Facebook that people is asking. I forgot to do it to write it down in the one that I always have. But anyway, I have it here. And Charles is asking, I make Greek yogurt with a culture that I have had for years, and I'm wondering if I can use the yogurt or maybe even mix it with some way after the cheese cools and before it is pressed as a culture for cheese. And if so, what kind of cheese would I maybe make? Look, what you're doing is all right. If you have the yogurt and you've been using it for years because the yogurt is working, of course. Now, it will depend the type of bacteria that you have in your yogurt. Remember that when we are making cheese, we have two types of bacteria: mesophilic culture and thermophilic culture. The mesophilic culture or thermophilic. The mesophilic culture, they like low temperatures, and the thermophilic culture, they like high temperatures. Let's put a case scenario. If you are using Greek yogurt, generally Greek yogurt have thermophilic culture, so you have to heat your milk at 40 degrees minimum. make your cheese. The Greek yogurt, these bacteria are normally or usually they are Streptococcus thermophilus, which they only produce acid. Okay, so you can heat them at 40 degrees. And what type of cheese you can make? You can make queso fresco, you can make mozzarella. It will only produce acid. You can make maybe not paneer because paneer doesn't have lactic culture, but if you can make a difference, give the paneer a little bit of flavor, you can use it as well, and you can make pasta any pasta fileta you can make. You can make a Havarti, but I would suggest to mix it with another product with another lactic culture, and not only with this yogurt because you're gonna get a very plain flavor. Manal is here. Hi, Manal. You don't have question. Come on, Manal. Tell me about it. You don't have question today. Never. Sorry. You don't have questions today, Manal. Never mind. Don't worry. You always welcome in my show, and I have questions for the audience. Don't worry. I have enough. Anyway, I'm going to the as I said, the show is been reduced to half an hour, and because everyone has things to do, and I don't want to make it so boring. So, but I want you to learn. So the idea is that if you have any question, you can tell them here. Okay. I have another question from Keith. Can I add lipas to Havarti? Yes, you can. I reckon Havarti doesn't have lipas because lipas is for Italian cheeses. By the way, I make a pecorino. The pecorino that I make in the video, I have it in my cheesecake, and 2 or 3 days ago, it had mold, and I was to maintain it clean and stuff. And when I opened it, the smell was beautiful, gorgeous. Remember that pecorino is made with sheep milk, so and I use lipas as well. So the flavor was fantastic. So you can use lipas depending on the cheese that you want. For Havarti, if you want to use Havarti lipas in Havarti, it's all right. Remember, cheese making is an art, and you are this, so you use whatever you want. You can make, if you use lipas and you also want to smoke cheese and make the Havarti, it will be a smoked Havarti with a piquant flavor, and it's a cheese that it would be very nice to make. Now you have an idea, and maybe I will make it. Okay, another question here. Joshua. It says here, Joshua B. I am interested to know what you use as a cheesecake. I am currently using a mini fridge with a Willy temp controller. I'm looking to get something bigger and looking for recommendations on brand, size, and brand and size. Well, that's it. That's the way. You can do it. You can use a shed if you are in a cold place, like for example Finland or the Arctic, that you have good, low temperature all the time. You don't need anything. But if you have 4 seasons during the year, you have summer. Here we have 25 degrees now. I reckon a bit more. So we have to use something that cools the environment, which can be any type of fridge that you use. Any old fridge. I have an old fridge, a second hand, and I use a temperature controller. And I put between 8 and 11 degrees Celsius. I put this band, so the cheese will be within this range. Of course, if you are using, aging other cheeses that they need a little bit colder temperature, you can graduate the temperature of the controller, or have another one if you want. But any type of fridge I use a fridge. I reckon it's about 1.5 meter high. This is the one that I use. and I have all my cheeses. You saw in the video that when I was ripening my cheeses. You've seen the video, so it's any type of fridge you can use. It's good to have the controller, because the controller would guarantee that your temperature is going to be bang on. Okay, if you leave it for the thermostat if you leave the thermostat of the fridge, it will always give you 4 degrees, because fridge are designed to get 4 degrees or less. Okay, so any type of cheese, any type of cheesecake, or any type of fridge is the best option. Okay, here I'm now saying, today I don't have any questions. Sure, show you. I show live stream. Can I coat my cheese? Dice Manal. Manal saying, yes, Manal, you can coat your cheese with wax, also paraffin, or you can vacuum pack it. Look, it will depend on the scope of your cheese. If you are making a cheese for a competition, for example, and you're going to you want to make it look nice, okay, wax it beautifully. If you want to sell it, if you want to sell the whole piece of cheese, you can wax it as well. But if you're going to sell the cheese by pieces, there's no point to wax it, because you're going to sell just a slice. What you have to do is vacuum pack it, leave it for all the time that you're going to ripen your cheese into the cave, and then once it's ready, cut it in pieces, vacuum pack it, and sell it. If you're going to do that. If the cheese is for your own consumption, it's up to you. I like to wax it for my own consumption and to sell the whole piece, because it's more attractive for client. So, but it's your choice. Okay. Vacuum pack it and waxing the cheese, both methodologies will guarantee that the moisture don't go, and as well it won't come in. Okay, the cheese won't become drier, but it will not gain moisture as well. So both methodologies, vacuum pack it or wax it. The thing is that long time ago we didn't have vacuum packing machines. We have waxing. So the monks by that time, they use the paraffin from the candles and wax the cheeses, and they maintain that in this way they could maintain the motion to the cheese. Okay. I can coat my cheese with any natural food. Yes, you can coat your cheese with anything. You can use. I use coffee. I use coriander. I might use parsley, pepper. I coat the cheese with 3 types of pepper, and you can wax it also with annatto. Rub it with salt. Anything. You can also rub the cheese and rub it with grape seeds. Grind them. You grind the grape of the seeds of the grapes, grind it and rub it, and the cheese will give you this flavor as well. Another question that you have: can you give me the best pH for Farmhouse cheddar when I remove whey? I'm not sure. I reckon I have a video that I made cheddar in my channel. Have a look. I reckon I weigh off at 5.3 or 5.8. I'm not quite sure. But remember, you have to achieve a pH of 5.3, 5.1, 5.3. So you have to weigh off at a higher pH, because the pH will carry on lowering, because of you still have lactose there. So the next day your pH will be lower. So you have to weigh off at pH about 5.8, 5.9 to reach 5.3, 5.1 the next day. but I don't remember well the pH way of. Have a look to my video, to the cheddar that I made in my channel, and this I told you the pH of whale. But if not, come back to me, and I will find out for you for next week. Okay, that's it. We're leaving. Let me see if we have one more question here. Yeah, I don't have the name. I made Cheddar cheese and it was a fail. Doesn't matter. I think my house was too cold and I used a new starter I never used before. It came out like sour cream and tastes like sour cream. What are your thoughts? Well, it will also depend on if it tastes like sour cream, it's acid. Okay. It will be also might be the type of bacteria that you use. If you use a bacteria that only produces acid, you will get the acid flavor or sour flavor. And maybe you use too much bacteria. To avoid that, you have to control the pH. Maybe your sour cream, also your Cheddar cheese, reach pH 4.6, which is the isoelectric point of the calcium. We don't have any calcium, and this is the very acid, or maybe less, 4.0. And it got too sour. But if you don't measure the pH, you will not know. So my suggestion: measure the pH when you are weighing off or draining the whey, and you won't have this problem. If you got cottage cheese flavor, maybe you have pH 4.0, which is acid, very acid. So you have to raise the pH a little bit to 5.6, maybe, or 5.8. 5.6, I reckon, is all right. 5.6. But you have to measure it. If you don't measure the pH, you will not know. Okay, that's it. I'm going to carry on making my cheese. And see you next week. As I said, next week I'm going to tell you how to make a very good phosphatase. I reckon this is the topic that I have in plan, or my team is telling me what to do. I'm just an employee of Dr. Quesero. I just tell people they tell me what to do. My team tells me, hey, you have to speak about it. Never mind. That's the thing. Okay, I'll see you next week. And as I always say, eat cheese because life without cheese is like love without a kiss. Okay? Or not? Tell me about it in the comments. Have a good time, okay? Have a nice weekend. Bye-bye.
Quesitos en casa, fáciles de hacer son. El doctor Quesero te enseña con sabor. Quesitos en casa, fáciles de hacer son. El doctor Quesero te enseña con sabor. Quesos colombianos y venezolanos, todo hecho en tu casa, con sabor zuliano y calor humano. Los quesos en casa tienen vitaminas, rápidos de hacer, en cualquier cocina. Tan fácil como pelar mandarinas. Quesitos en casa, fáciles de hacer son. El doctor Quesero te enseña con sabor. Quesitos en casa, fáciles de hacer.